Hi everyone, here's the subject of today's video. It's a trailing arm from a Fiat Seicento Sporting, and I have a small problem. I've taken the rear wheel bearing off and I'm left with this race here. The bearing collapsed and fell apart when I was pulling the wheel bearing assembly off. It's not an uncommon situation, and this thing here should just slide straight off, but it's a really tight fit. So what I could do is get some screwdrivers and just hammer into that area there. It might come off, it might not. More than likely I'd end up damaging the lip on the shoulder on the stub axle, which wouldn't be ideal. I could put a load of heat on it. It might expand enough, it might drop off, it might not. Or I could go on to an internet auction website and I could buy myself a cheap bearing extractor tool like this. So that's what I've done, and this video will cover using this tool and hopefully removing this part here. So how this works is this component here, you open the nuts, open this up, and it goes behind the part you're trying to remove. So there's a tiny little lip there, and I'm hoping I can get enough purchase using the sharp edge here of this tool. So that will go behind the race that I'm trying to remove. Then I'll put a couple of these pillars coming out of here and out of here, and then I'll attach this component over the top, and finally this threaded bar will go through the middle of the bridge and it will apply force to the end of the stub axle. It'll pull this part towards us and all will be well. I've fitted the smaller of the two removal tools, and if you can look in there, there's quite a lot of air just there, which means the only part of the tool that's gripping on the bearing race is there and there, and I think that's a recipe for disaster. So I'm going to take this one off and I'm going to try the bigger of the two and see if that fits better. I'm not convinced that's much better of a fit, but let's tighten these nuts up, give it a go. So as I've tightened these up, I've put a spanner on either side, and as soon as I've started to tighten it up, the bearing race has already started to move. So I'm going to set it up as if it was really tight, just so I can show you how it would work. But I think actually I could probably use just a little bit of hand force and pull that off now. Now I've got the tool set up, fairly straightforward. I had to remove the nut from the end of the stub axle because I need a clear path for the old ball race to come off. So now all I need to do is to tighten this up and it should pull off. As you can see, that's just pulling off nicely, slipping off. There we have it. That wasn't too painful, was it? So I would say this tool, which I'll put the price in the comments or on the screen, I believe it's about 25 quid, absolute win. And one last tip before I go, with these cheaper tools, one of the things I have noticed is they are made of very low quality steel, and once you've used them, the small amount of moisture from your hands will stay on these tools, and the next time you open the box they'll be covered in rust. So to avoid that happening, what I do is I get a bit of spray grease and I just spray it all over the tools, everything I've touched. I know it's a bit messy, but it guarantees that next time I open this box, the tool's going to be in just as good a condition as when I put them in, because this isn't the kind of tool you're going to use very often. These will sit here maybe for 6 months, maybe for a year, and then one day you'll need them, and it's much better to know that you're not going to have rust to deal with, as well as the stuck bearing. That's my recommendation. You might wince and think that's a terrible idea, but it works for me.